All right, so this is the second video for our first week in talking about flashes. One of the areas where flashes can be used as a supplemental light source when we already have enough sun is something called a fill flash. And one of the ideas here is, take a look at this particular image. This gentleman has the sun right behind his back, and so if we didn't use the flash, even though it's a sunny, sunset time of day, where there's more than enough light to see the image, because the sun is behind him, he would be what's called backlit. He would just be a shadow because all the light is blocked by him. And so his shadow would be cast over the camera. And so when you take a picture, all you'd be getting is his shadow. So we turn on the flash and boom, we can now see his face, but you also get, this cool little sunburst over his shoulder. It's kind of an artistic photo, kind of a neat image. Likewise, here we have a gentleman wearing a baseball cap. It's not so much about the gun, it's more about the baseball cap, where you can see the sun is basically up above him. And you can actually see the line of the shadow right here. So had we taken this picture without the flash, his face would be blocked off, that the sun would be blocked out by his baseball cap brim, and his face would just be a gigantic shadow. As it is right now, because we have the flash, we can see more details in his flat face. It's still a little bit darker because there's still kind of that shadow casting. There's more light across his shoulders and the front of his hands than there is back here cast by the shadow of his ball cap brim. But the flash unit helped us out. Now, sometimes we have too much light coming off of our flashes. Even if we can do some of the programmable things, we want to diminish the amount of light coming off of our flashes. So to do that, we use what's called a diffuser. Sometimes a diffuser is something as easy as just taking and putting something blocking the flash. So this is, a piece of Scotch tape holding like a cutout piece of a milk jug, actually. And just that plastic from the milk jug is enough to cut down some of the light coming out. When you buy flash units, they usually come with diffusers. So here we've got a plastic cap that's designed to snap onto the flash and diffuse the light. Some of our flashes even have little flip-down diffusers that you can pull out and flip down so that it helps you out. And if you need a little bit more diffusion, you can use these, boxes that flip over the top. So different manufacturers come with different setups. But the idea here is take a look at what we have, this marble, and we're trying, or not a marble, it's actually a ball bearing. And this is from an insurance claim from a different textbook that I'd used in the past, where the author actually was an investigator from the insurance industry. And so he's trying to show that this ball bearing had gone bad, and there's this huge gouge right here in the ball bearing. Well, to take a picture of that gouge, the flash is right here, and so the flash causes us the inability to see any detail unless it's over here on the side. Well, that gouge in the ball bearing is off over to the side, and it's not really the center of our focus anymore. So what does the author do? Well, he used literally a piece of typing paper to fuse his flash, and now we've got this ball bearing, and you can see the gouge right there in perfect view. You can also if you understand the inverse square law, you can stand back and we can diffuse light over distance. So here we stood back a little bit, and now we see that different sort of gouge in a ball bearing helping us out. One of the other things that we're looking for oftentimes in the world of crime scene investigation is fill lights. So when you look up fill lights typically on Google, what you're going to see is, stuff for like portrait photography where your camera's here. And we have, a light from one side and a diffused light looking straight at your subject so you can get that, awesome portrait. Or folks who are into selling things online like eBay will have different kinds of fill light setups where you've got, lights again, covering down onto an object and a little bit of light being diffused through a piece of paper to, eliminate shadows so we can see details of some item you're going to try and sell online. That's great. But what we're trying to do again is fill in details where shadows are. So sometimes what we end up with is using, yes, an off-camera flash. Now, portrait studios, they've got these big rigs with diffusers and whatnot. Typically, we're just holding the flash off to the side in our hand. Sometimes we do have some nice units like this, which again, we're just going to be holding it off to the side in our hand, not necessarily always putting it on one of these monopods. Typically, too, one of the biggest, off-camera, supplemental lights that we're going to have actually use is just our flashlight. We don't need lots of crazy extra flash units. You can just use a flashlight. Heck, my cell phone, if I go in here and click the little thing, I've got a flashlight on my cell phone, and so with this, I can create quite a bit of extra lighting, and so we can fill in the details and show something that is currently in a shadow. We can fill these shadows in and actually now show the details. So really a lot of times all we're doing is trying to get an area lit up and trying to deal with a whole bunch of extra flashes, and the setups involved is more complicated than it needs to be. If you're a portrait photographer working in a studio, having these setups is great because you just keep doing the same portraits and you keep doing the same pictures over and over again. We're not doing the same stuff in the same conditions over and over again. We're in people's houses. We're in people's backyards. We're in people's cars. So as such, to find those hidden objects, we need to bring in additional lighting, but not necessarily all the different studio lights that you would see when you start Googling fill lights and key lights and some of these things. Your flashlight works just as good. So, practical use right here. We've got a knife and it's hidden under a bench on somebody's deck. So, we can either have the knife hard to see, or we can start using some different flashlights and some different angles of lights to cut down on the shadow. Now, the shadow is not completely eliminated in the bottom picture, but we can see what that weapon is. Likewise, here we've got, again, a knife sitting on the floorboard of a car with regular lighting. The flash is going to never kind of fill in the floorboard of the car the way you would think, is the flash is going to end up hitting the dashboard. So what we can do is try a little different, trickery. And okay, so this one looks pretty good, but it's almost like too much light going down into there. So why don't we try and get the flash off to the side or use a flashlight or something, kind of more of an oblique lighting angle. And there we go. We can see the car seat, you can see the dashboard, you can see, even all some of the debris down here. Looks like a Cheeto or something. And the knife, and there's even like kind of a speck of something. Maybe there's some blood or some rust or something there on the knife. You can see that speck in this image too. But in this image, there's nothing there. And so this one's a little overexposed. I'd say this one's okay. I'd use this one in court. This one's a little better. Some people say this one's a kind of darkish, but either or of these is nice. This one you can at least see the seat detail, and you can see all the detail down here. Nothing's washed out, versus this one, it's really washed out, really washed out, really washed out, and kind of light here. Just my mindset. All right, so that's the second part of our discussion of supplemental lighting for this week. Next week, we're going to go into some additional issues with supplemental lighting. So as usual, if anybody has any questions, feel free, stop out to the Public Safety Training Center, talk to me, shoot me an email, give me a phone call. I'm always around. Otherwise, I will talk to you next week.